This conference will now be recorded.
All right, I'd like to welcome everyone to the Town of Southbridge Special Board of Health meeting, May 5th, 2021. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Southbridge Board of Health will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found at the Town of Southbridge website at www.ci.southbridge.ma.us. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so in the following manner, as usual via cable access TV Charter Spectrum Channel 192. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Town of Southbridge website an audio or video recording transcript or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. All right, we open, it's 4:02. Roll call.
Beth Stevens,
Here.
Roland Larochelle,
Here.
Anthony Postoli.
Here.
Nicole Duffy.
Excused.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are here to determine the habitability of 318 or 320 Main Street in its entirety. Andy, I will turn things over to you.
If I may, on Saturday, April 24th, the Board of Health instructed me to contact fire department, the fire inspector, and the building inspector and do a cooperative investigation of the property at 318, also known as 320 Main Street. The purpose of this specifically was to determine the common area fire protection and fire safety of the building. Again, it was limited to common area because there was no knowledge that we could or could not get into the apartments. Working with this department, the building department and the fire department, we coordinated an inspection on Friday, April 30th. The three of us went into the building and following a full walk of all of the common areas, including the basement, the rear common area, which is a common area for 2 apartments, and the front common area, which is the common stairway for 3 apartments, and also the storefront. The fire inspector, along with the building inspector, determined that the fire protection system was not adequate as to coverage area or function. After that meeting, the fire department, building department, and Board of Health sat down and discussed the conditions and the immediate concerns and determined that the threat was of such a degree that we could not wait until the regular meeting scheduled for the 13th of the Board of Health, that we wanted to schedule a special meeting that under a special meeting for this one agenda item. Upon that decision, a immediate order was issued upon the owners, and the owners in this case, Mr. Salce as the listed agent for Southbridge RE LLC, and Hunter Foote, who holds himself off as agent of Southbridge RE LLC in all of our public dealings with him. Both served by email, although Mr. Salce's came back. I believe Ms. Maritza corrected his email and sent it out after the fact, and by mail to their listed address at 119 Forest Street in Worcester. Additional to that, we walked the building with all of the notifications and informed all of the tenants that we were going to be having a hearing tonight. A notice was either put in the door of the tenant or handed to every tenant in the building. I feel under the serving rules that this is adequate service, so we're moving forward with the hearing today. So we have proper service and we have the affected parties in place today. Thank you.
Okay, Chief Normandin, do you want to kind of give us a general idea what the inadequacies were? Or maybe Mr. Lavoy can, either one.
So Lieutenant Lavoy was on the inspection last Friday. I do know, I'm just going to give the brief, and he can go into a little bit more detail in regards to there is no fire alarm system that's active within that building. Also, there was some questions about some egress issues. Lieutenant Lavoy, you want to fill in the body of what exactly was going on?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. And soon you can see me. All right, cool. Yeah, so the inspection noted that there was some smoke detectors in areas. To the best of my knowledge, I mean, it's a tough building because it's an older building. Trying to determine what would be required for different areas, it can be difficult. However, where we went to certain areas, we started in the back area, the rear egress, there was no smoke detection there. But I believe what had happened throughout the years, I believe things were put in and the smoke detectors were never really addressed. So having said that, smoke detectors, sometimes when they're put in, they can tell a story. People will make changes to a building. They don't change the smoke detection, and you can almost tell that something was changed due to the placement of the smokes. So there were no smokes back there in the common area, but I'm not so sure that was a common area before when the smokes were placed. So we had to kind of, it's not really the job of the fire department to go and really design the coverage, but to look at it and say, well, does that make sense? Does that not make sense? There are some smoke detectors that are very close to each other. Again, I think maybe there might have been walls in certain places or not in certain places, which made those detection locations seem a little odd and out of place. The panel, to the best of my knowledge, we found a panel in one of the businesses, and it is believed that that panel is what controls all of the smoke detectors that we found. They were all low voltage smoke detectors, meaning they have to go back to a panel. The panel that we found was completely dead. So that means that there is absolutely no coverage on any of the detectors that were noted in our inspection. Not good. So I don't know how long it's been like that. The panel looks to be a little aged. I think it was put in quite a while ago. And I think that's when those smoke detector locations were done. I think it was all done at the same time. So it made a lot of questions for the fire department that I don't really have the answers to. I did seek out for some permits, building permits in the past. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't believe there are any building permits for any changes on the floor plan of that building. So there are other issues that basically we have that were not answered during that inspection. But at this point, to the best of my knowledge, that smoke system is completely dead. It does not work, and they have absolutely no coverage in that building.
Okay, thank you. Roland, Tony, do you guys have any questions so far? Roland?
One question I'd like, as I'm putting notes down, every time we've had a meeting, the number has changed. How many tenants are in this building that have been living there with zero fire protection, and we haven't even discussed CO? How many tenants are we talking about?
I'm still there.
I mean,
Andy,
I know at our last Saturday meeting, that when we discussed the double keying in the back, it was alluded that Sarah was the tenant, and then we were enlightened that there were two tenants in the back. It was unknown at that time, and to this time, the best of my knowledge, how many people in the front? Because the whole situation of this meeting is, how many people are we talking about? that are affected here.
Mr. Foot may be able to answer this better than I, but to my knowledge, there are 5 tenants on the 3rd floor. There are 2 living units on the 2nd floor. On the right-hand side, I believe there's 2 people, and on the left-hand side, there's between 2 and 4. The rear of the building has 1 couple and 2 individuals renting rooms singly, and I don't know how many people live in the apartment on the right-hand side. So we have 5, at least 14. Hunter?
I can respond to the number of units. There are 3 units that are located towards the back of the building. One is accessible directly from the outside. The other 2 are accessible through rear common area. And then on the 2nd floor, accessible only from the front. There are 3 units. And there's 1 apartment on the 3rd floor, which would total 7 residential dwelling units. I'm not entirely sure on specific occupants, but I would like to respond. This is in response to a question of how many are there. The question was phrased, are there without adequate fire protection? And that answer is 0, because each of the units have battery operated smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. And as of shortly after our inspection, the common areas also have battery smoke and carbon monoxide detectors.
Mr. Pruitt, I do believe that that is a temporary solution to the problem. I see Chief Normandy nodding his head. So that's great that you went back and did that now, but that's temporary. That's not a permanent solution. And
Correct.
Madam Chair, my original question was not units. My original questions of how many lives are impacted by the situation in that building. I'm talking about how many people in that building rest their head on a pillow. That is residents. That was my question, not units. I'm talking about living, breathing people resting their heads and living in that building. That was my question.
My estimate would be somewhere between 15 and 20.
so you don't know how many people are actually living in your building. How do you not know that?
Because some people were ordered to leave and we produced keys for them to move into other accommodations. They've refused to leave. I don't know if they've left yet. Sometimes people have claimed to have left and they haven't, or they've left their belongings behind. It is very difficult to tell unless I go there at 3 o'clock in the morning and invade people's personal space to see who's actually sleeping there. There would be a minimum of 15. There would be a maximum of 20 that I know about. But at the same time, there have been folks sleeping on a couch in a common area that we've had to eject, which could make the number larger than 20. So for those reasons, I am not sure.
Can I speak?
Yes, go ahead, Sarah.
Okay. Hunter did give me a key to the place in Dudley, but I had that place looked at online, and he actually doesn't own that building anymore. It's foreclosed. So I told him that I wasn't going to be moving into a building that he no longer owns. And there are 2 people that were living upstairs at 320 that had moved into Dudley probably around a month earlier. And when I spoke with them, they also confirmed that Hunter no longer owned the building and that they had gotten a message from the town, like the town or lawyer, someone saying that Hunter did not own it anymore and that they had to vacate the premises.
Hey, Beth,
Okay, Sarah, thank you. Yes, Tony.
I just want to be clear that I understand. So in this building, we have between 15 to 20 occupants in this building, we're just going to say. And there, with the exception of these battery operated fire detectors, that's the only protection that they have currently? Is that correct?
To my understanding, yes. We got together and again, I don't know what's inside the apartments, but we talked about when we could possibly have this hearing, meeting all the required notifications, and we together agreed that if we issue an order on Mr. Foote to immediately put in temporary protection, that the minimum we could go on this would be until the 5-day required notification, which brings us to the special meeting today. So to my knowledge, and Mr. Lavoy can probably speak better, to my knowledge, the only protection in this building is whatever temporary battery operated smoke detectors were put in based on our orders to him to do that.
So just quickly,
Also-
the order that you guys put in place for the smoke detectors on Saturday, did that, because I didn't get to review it before the meeting, but did that include moving these people out as well? Andy?
It did not, because that,
Okay.
after discussion, we felt that the best case to do this would be with the Board of Health under the sanitary code, and this was the first opportunity that we could meet with proper notification.
Okay, I just wanted to double check that I wasn't missing something. Okay.
What are we talking about to get this up to code with regards to the fire detection?
I would defer to Mr. Lavoy on that, or Mr.
Steve, so at a minimum, just to even bring up what they had, let's say that was correct in all the correct locations, you would have to get that panel working again. There would have to be a fire alarm company, licensed company to go in, get that panel working again, do a full, what they call 72 test. Any type of system like that's supposed to have a 72, NFPA 72 annual test, and they test all the devices to that fire alarm system. They also test the batteries, and they make sure that everything's functioning okay. I had asked Mr. Foote for that record, and he at the time he actually was not even aware that he had a panel, according to what he told me, that he didn't know he had a panel. So I don't think he has any 72 records on file. But again, we saw that this system is not on. It's not working. I don't know what's wrong with it. It is an older panel. Sometimes they can be repaired. They don't necessarily expire, but the parts can become hard to find. So this could be a whole new system, or it could be just a simple repair. It's hard to say. The problem with the battery smokes right now, it gives them some coverage, but they're not interconnected. So if you have a fire down on the first floor, the third floor will not know about it if they cannot hear that smoke going off. So it gave them some coverage, but they're very limited coverage right now within the entirety of the building.
Okay.
Immediately upon or immediately thereafter of getting the existing system functioning, we would be looking for a inspection by a licensed fire alarm company to make sure that any recent construction does not adversely affect the system that's in place. So in addition to getting it running, we would want to make sure that the current system detectors are where they belong based on the current layout of the building.
Well, and Andy, what is the zoning on this building? Is this building even acceptable to be a rooming house, which is essentially what it is?
It isn't, because it does not have a special permit. It is allowed with a special permit, but he would have had to have gotten a special permit on it.
And Mr. Foote,
could
did
I-
you get a special permit before you moved people in?
No, we aren't required to get a special permit because the individuals that reside in what was so-called a rooming house are disabled individuals as identified under the Federal Fair Housing Act, as well as Massachusetts state law, such that there may be a prohibition for unrelated individuals in a certain number to be living in the same dwelling unit. But the extent to which that applies is limited because these are disabled individuals, and disabled individuals even though they're unrelated, they're a family by choice. There's plenty of case law about that, and it's protected under federal and state law where no such permit would
All
apply
right,
in
enough.
this.
Okay, Mr. Foot, we're just gonna stop. Chief Normandin.
If these people are disabled, my biggest concern is that we should have working smoke detectors and CO detection in the building, period.
Correct. And there has been working smoke and carbon monoxide detection in the building. Most recently, an inspection was performed. Well, there is, and there's evidence of there being fire protection there. An agent of the Board of Health in February inspected the interior of unit number 4 as well as the common areas. There were violations found. Those violations were corrected, and the unit was cleared from all violations. It was cleared to continue to be lived in. There was never a concern about smoke detectors in the unit or in the common areas by an agent of the Board of Health. We were given
because that is done by the fire department, Lieutenant Lavoy.
So my question to that would be, it's clearly in the fire code that the owner maintained the records on the system. Mr. Foote didn't even know he had a panel in that building. He's never really looked into the fire alarm system in that building. My other question is, town record has that as 5 units, I believe, and I would like to know where the extra units came from throughout the years, because I don't see any permits. So again, that would also kind of steer us in a direction of what's required for smoke detectors. What we noted may not really meet the code to what they have now, and I'm not sure how they got there. So there's a lot of questions I have that we don't have answers for, to be honest with you.
Roland.
Question on some discussion that's been held that really concerns me. Like Lieutenant Lavoy said, there was evidence of physical detection devices. But if a building, and our agenda is determining the building in its entirety, if a building gets renovated, changed, this will change the requirements for smoke and CO. I know on a regular residential, if you add a bedroom, you are required to bring the entire structure up to code with regards to smoke detectors and CO detectors. My concern and what I'm really having a hard time to wrap my head around, and I don't really care on, well, I care, but I don't think that the condition and how tenants are classified has any relevance. If there were rooms added, whether they're with permit or not permit, if there was walls added, if there was different ceiling heights added, I am concerned that the smoke and CO detector system, because of the life and death reason for having these things, should have been completely redesigned to fit the occupancy as the occupancy has been changed. So not only, like Lieutenant Lavoy said, that they were not functioning, and if anybody does any kind of schooling, history, or common sense, is that you can have 110% correction within protection within your living space. But if there is no early warning and protection in the means of egress, that's where you will perish, is in your living space. That is my concern, because that is a very large building. This is not a 1,500 square foot single family ranch. That is why the rules are in place. And I have a real, to be honest with you, when I saw the records after the inspection, in my experience, I got sick to my stomach, not knowing how many people were in there with no early warning section, no early warning system whatsoever. And let's talk about playing Russian roulette with people's lives. It scared the heck out of me. And to me, not having this in today's world it's a safety issue. It's a life safety issue, period. Which if the building interior has been changed, it has to be all redesigned. Everything has to be redesigned. And battery operated smoke detectors within the living units itself doesn't even touch the tip of the iceberg for protection.
I mean, the problem that I have with this is, first of all, this is not the first building that you own. So I feel like this is just, it's over and over and over again. You own a lot of properties. So this is something that you should have been aware of and you should have known about, that this is a requirement before you can open it up to have people living there. And I just, again, it's the same things over and over again. And I can't say that I'm surprised, but I have a real problem with people still being in this building, because if somebody on the third floor gets stuck because there's a fire downstairs, they're not going to make it. And it's just your negligence yet again.
An agent of the Board of Health performed an inspection
It
of one of the
doesn't
units.
matter. We're not talking about the Board of Health. We're talking about the fire department.
If it was a concern, why wasn't the fire department called back in February? I
It's
was
still
told that this was a
requirement.
perfectly occupied unit when it wasn't.
Andy,
Your agent represented that it was occupiable when apparently it was not. So that's why this is happening, because it's only now that you've realized that it's a sober house that all of this is becoming a problem. I've owned that building for 5 years. I've had Lieutenant Lavoie all through the building. I've had Andrew Pelletier all through the building. Nobody said a peep about any of this. Any work that I've done, I pulled a building permit for if
we
it
have
was
no
required.
permit.
Those permits.
Okay, Mr. Foote. Mr. Foote, go ahead, Lieutenant Lavoie.
And just for the record, I have not been in that building, okay? I saw Mr. Foote in the parking lot a few months earlier, and I asked him about his fire alarm system. I told him I believe that it was a paneled system, and I would like to see the 72 report. And he told me that it was not a paneled system. He did not have any low voltage smokes. I said, "Are you sure about that? Because I think you do." He said, "No, I do not." I said, "Well, let's schedule an inspection," and that never happened. So again, the code clearly says he's supposed to have it on record. He doesn't have it. The code says you cannot, in fact, Mass General Law says you cannot shut off a fire alarm system, which is what basically has happened there. 27A of Mass General Law, it makes that an actual criminal offense. So I'm sorry, but this comes back on the building owner, and he didn't have a working smoke alarm system that was put in that building. It was approved at one time, a long time ago, to be in that building. It protected the residents and all common areas in the building of its entirety. And like what was been said here, that battery in the apartments is, yes, very important to have battery smokes, if that's what it's grandfathered to. I don't know. I did not go inside the apartments. But if it was battery, that's fine. And you need that. You need CO detection within 10 feet of any bedroom. However, anything over a two-family in the state of Massachusetts requires interconnected smoke detectors in all common areas. He did not have that because his panel was not working. There was no way that anything that happened outside of those bedrooms or apartments, whatever they are, because I'm not sure, I did not go into those areas. To somebody says, I've been all over that building. I have not. I couldn't even tell you what the bedrooms look like in that building. All I can tell you is 2 stairwells and one of these stores. And that's all I could tell you from what I saw the other day. So he did not have a working smoke alarm system in any of the common areas, period, the end.
Thank you. Sarah?
Hi, so I'm actually at work, so I'm gonna just say a couple of things if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
So the glass door to get into the building has been kept unlocked, which is good. However, the door to my actual apartment is kept unlocked all the time. When I moved in there, I was told that the door never got locked, so I had no need for a key. So I don't have a key for that. Number two, I was, again, never told that this is supposed to be a sober house, because it's not. Number three, Hunter or his, whatever, his people there took our stove. So we no longer have a stove, and there's still there's still 4 of us that are living on the first floor. I have found somewhere to go. I barely have the money to do it, and I absolutely don't have a way of moving all my stuff. And as Hunter said, he's absolutely not spending a dime on me moving. His words, not mine. And let's see. Yeah, I think I'm just, there's only one means of getting out. There's, the door to the storefront, like I said, has been permanently locked. And that's where we were getting our heat from. And, if anything ever were to happen, like in a fire, we at least had the option to like break the glass in the storefront if need be. But that's not the case. So that's why I am still actually at the on the first floor. So I just wanted to kind of let everyone know that.
Thank you. Tony, Roland, do you have anything?
I know we can go back and forth on things, but I don't know if I'm just oversimplifying things, but I'm hearing this report from the fire department saying that any building with more than 2 apartments need interconnected alarms. They don't have them. I don't understand what the issue is now. It needs them. You have 15 to 20 people in this building, and I don't want to displace anybody. But what, like Roland had alluded to, if there's a fire, I just don't know. That's all I'm going to say.
We will absolutely we'll have these issues resolved within the time frame that the board or Mr. Pelletier on behalf of the board gave, which was 3 days. So we've complied with the order to install battery operated smoke and carbon monoxide detectors, and we have a timeline on the provision of reports. We have Admiral Fire, Northeast, and Guardian. All in the next couple of days we'll be performing walkthroughs, and we'll figure out who will be the quickest and most efficient to get this work done. So we have a plan to comply with the board's order to have this complete within 30 days.
And
Well, that doesn't do anything for the people that are currently living there. So yet again, we're back to this. It really is not a discussion. So you
Well,
can
there
spin it. It doesn't
could be
matter. You
the
can
order-
spin it however you want. But at
We
the end of
complied
the
with
day,
the
you are
order.
meeting minimum. You are meeting minimum requirement, and that's just to even be in the building.
I appreciate
that
you
is
recognizing that we are meeting the minimum requirements, because that's what the order was to put in temporary detectors, which is what we did. The order gave us 30 days to do the rest, which we will do. We have met the.
Well, and so again, based on past track record, I don't believe it. And I don't think that these people should be living in this situation. Sarah.
The Board of Health gave us.
I just wanted to say again, I'm still in the room with no window. And he did take our stove. And the other day, he actually came to the house. He was pounding on my door. And he like kind of semi-threatened to come in and, take all my shit out. So, oh, pardon the swear. So I'm a little nervous, like being there or leaving my stuff there, unattended. And, even though it's locked, it's, I'm kind of just worried he's gonna go there and, take out my stuff and do something with it. Because he has done that in the past with other people that I've seen.
Okay, Roland?
Madam Chair, this is going to go back and forth all night. Here's the facts that I see it, and please, Tony, Chief, anybody else, because I know Mr. Foot's going to dispute it. Sarah is still living in the apartment. We had concerns about the double keyed lock. We had an emergency meeting because I really have no control over who does an inspection at what time. When a violation is brought to the board has we're required to act, okay? Ignorance of the law is of no consequence, but when a situation is brought to us, regardless of how long it's been in existence, when we find out, we're bound to act. Last Saturday, we had an emergency meeting. We discussed the double keyed. We discussed the access. We made a ruling that, and last Saturday, we found out Sarah was not the only poor person living behind a double keyed lock. And we made an order forthwith that the people that are living behind that double locked door shall be relocated out of that building forthwith until such time that those life safety issues are corrected. And we went around and round. I understand, and Sarah even made the comment, I don't want to be homeless. And our job and our requirements are not to leave you homeless, that the building owner that does not comply with life safety rules and recommendation does have rules and regulations that he or she must follow by Mass General Law. There's a hotel on Mechanic Street, there's motels in Sturbridge. If there is another place to go that is safe, I will use the word safe.
The place in Dudley is not owned by him anymore either.
Regardless, I understand what you're saying, Sarah. It doesn't have to be owned by him. A motel isn't owned by him. My concern is to make sure that you people are put in a safe and healthy location. We gave that order Saturday.
Yes.
We are now Wednesday and nothing has been done. There's people living all over that building, and this town, in conjunction with everybody that did the inspection and the fire chief and everything else, has bent over backwards on a temporary, and I say temporary, Google the word, life safety fix by putting those detectors in there. Temporary until we are sitting here for the habitability of the entire building. I don't care if it's going to take 30 minutes or 30 days. To have a company come in, to have a company look at it, to decide what they're going to do and bring it up to code. You cannot sell a house unless it's brought up to code. But people that own these buildings think that they can occupy these buildings when they're not up to code. You are wrong. I did not get on the Board of Health and jeopardize fellow citizens, their life and safety on inadequate protection that is the basic right and responsibility. I don't care about money. I don't care about anything. Our rulings of getting Sarah and the other person out, so if somebody locks that door, they can get out, has not been complied with since Saturday. And I think I even made the comment to you, Mr. Foote, that if you can fix that door on Monday morning, that is putting these people up temporarily Saturday night and Sunday night. Here we are on Wednesday. We have a updated inspection. We have updated information, and that is what we have to go on.
And the door was complete on Monday.
Excuse me, sir, I'm not done talking. These people have been living in deplorable conditions. The inspections of that building prove it. The building does not comply with any rule or regulation in the book to be habitable. Never mind things in the cellar. If there was ever a fire by those, what I've seen in the report, those illegal things that are stored in the basement, or a simple accident, a simple malfunction of the heating system. People on the third floor will not know what's going on at 3 o'clock in the morning unless somebody throws a rock through the window, if they even wake up from their sleep. This is deplorable. This meeting is not past inspections or anything else. This meeting has to do with the habitability of that building in its entirety. And I'm sorry, but the proof is in the cooking. Our order for life safety of those two individuals in the back that we issued on Saturday has not been complied with. So the only thing I can take away from this is nothing else will be. And the Board of Health has a job to do when this is brought to our table. It is on our table.
All right, Sarah, last comment.
All right, I have to go as soon as I'm done with this. I'm sorry. I just wanted to reiterate that the house in Dudley, like I said, has been proved that
We're not going to discuss that property any longer, okay?
well, and the reason why I'm bringing it up is because he's gonna try to put me there again. That's
We
what
have
he's
no
been
control
doing.
over that. That's something that you have to take up with him. That's
Okay.
not, we're not going to talk about that part of it anymore.
Okay.
Are there any other tenants that wish to
yes.
say something?
There's 4 of us down where I'm living.
Sarah,
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking to me.
that's okay. Go ahead. Your name?
I am a resident of the third floor apartments. Well, they're numbered 7, and my room is actually one of them that doesn't have a window as well. But I live at 718, which was recently condemned in the winter, and he moved me to 320. And this is what, 3 months later, it's happening again. And I lost quite a few things in the first move. I mean, he did help me with transportation, getting most of my belongings, though, but I did lose some things. And then I'm just wondering on how this will entail, because I wouldn't be living in a single room with my father if we had any other option. We can't really afford anything else coming up, so I don't know what it really entails for when this place gets condemned, because we can't afford, we're on a fixed income. And my father has had 2 strokes, 3 heart attacks. He's got a nebulizer. I just didn't know where exactly are we gonna end up in this whole thing.
So unfortunately, we really don't have a lot of say in that. We can provide you with, I believe, Andy, we can give them information on resources, but that part is not, that onus is on Hunter. Am I correct?
I'm sorry.
The order will be, if the board votes to move this to uninhabitable, then the order will be for Hunter to afford moving expenses for the tenants. It does not necessarily obligate him to find it, just that he is responsible for the cost of moving the people. I have been working with Paul Normandin, trying to get in touch with the Red Cross to see what kind of resources are available. And I spoke to Ashley Wolf of the Housing Authority, who informs me that if they have a piece of paper that says we dislocated them, if that's a word, then they move up on the priority scale. However, only if there's places available within the housing system. So even though they might become priority number 1, that doesn't mean they get a place unless there's a place available.
Chief Normandin?
Record, it would be or
The Board of
ELLC and not myself.
Red Cross and American Red Cross cannot assist in this situation due to the fact that there's not a fire, a flood, or a national disaster in the area. So no hurricanes or tornadoes. That's what I was told by both representatives.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chairman, can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm Dr. John Howland. I'm here with two of the tenants in the building. My concern here is if the building is condemned, what recourse do the tenants have to enforce the law regarding the owner's responsibility to provide suitable housing pending fixing the building?
So Andy,
That would be a civil action between the tenants and the landlord and the courts.
So basically, we're going to have 15 to 20 people made homeless pending a civil action, which may take months to go forward, and the tenants have no financial resources to even undertake a civil action.
Roland.
Andy, isn't there a law? Because it was when I owned a multifamily that you have to have insurance, and part of your insurance is to relocate your tenants should something happen for up to a month. Isn't there a law in this state that insurance has to be?
That law is not within the sanitary code. I'm not familiar with it. I can research it.
Hey, Roland, I think that's when an event occurs. I'm not sure. I've never seen anything at Hanover. I know that there is placement, there is clauses and benefits allowed, but it's if there's a fire or if there's something, a specific event. But
Would it, I mean, does it count if the building becomes uninhabitable because of any reason?
I've never seen it occur for a reason like this.
I mean, there's an ethical and there's a human thing involved in this to keep people safe and a responsibility. And it's a shame that people who are supposed to have this responsibility don't seem to be taking it seriously. I understand what Dr. Howland's talking about. But if there is an incident in that building, like what happened next door to this building, we don't have to worry about the tenants financing. We don't have to worry about where they're going to go, because we all know where they're going to end up going. Okay, and it's going to be dust to dust. It's a sad situation. Perhaps we should be contacting the Attorney General's office and maybe the DA's office, because these people should not be put out, but they should also not be allowed in forced, I shouldn't say allowed, I should say forced to live in peril. And the only reason that this society has rules and regulations is because we're a reactive society. We don't have smoke detector rules and CO rules just because we're in the business to sell detectors. We have this in a reactive society because people die and continue to die because they don't have them. And when you have a large structure like this, I mean, we're bound to act. And I know how it's going to go. I have a very good suspicion of how it's going to go. I don't know what the town can do to help out. There is the, if I can find it, the Mass General Law about getting help to the community. I don't want to see these people homeless, but I don't want to see these people dead.
That's the whole thing, Roland, right?
Right.
Exactly. This is why we're
Right
here.
there.
This is why we're here. This thing does not even comply. And this battery operated stuff was a Band-Aid that the fire department allowed and the rest of the town allowed to be put on this building until this hearing. That was a Band-Aid put on a very large wound. We are here to decide how big the wound is. I just don't know what to say. I understand what the doctor's saying. I understand everything else, but I don't think there's any recourse on there is no leaving these people in this building. There isn't.
I agree, Roland, is if it, what would be the time frame if we said this building is not inhabitable, which we can agree that it is, but when would they be forced to vacate?
Well, Andy, it would be immediately, right?
Think about this, Tony. We gave the order because of people locked into a prison cell by the possibility of last Saturday on those 2 apartments. We gave the order to evacuate forthwith until such time that that problem was corrected. That time period was all up to the property owner. They have not been relocated. And from what Sarah said today, the problem hasn't been fixed. So on this problem with everything that was written up, you have to get a professional company in there. They have to look at it. They have to design it. I'm sure if he's any kind of a halfway businessman, he's going to get multiple companies. He's going to get different prices. And these companies are going to determine, like he already made the statement, that they can have something going in 30 days. With the COVID thing, there's always an excuse from whatever company you have, whether it's a lumber supply or anything on supply and demand. To me, 30 minutes, especially when you put your head on a pillow, is too long without this protection. I don't think that's up to us. It's been going on too long. I'm terrified for these tenants.
Andy,
As with 718 Main Street, the board can set a time in which to vacate this property. If they declare it unfit for human habitation today, then I would argue vehemently that the conditions as they exist today are unfit for human habitation and the order would be forthwith, unless the board could come up with some equal protection that would extend that forthwith to 24 hours or 48 hours or 7 million smoke detectors and 42,000 carbon monoxide detectors will buy them a week. It would be up to the board to decide what will constitute temporary satisfaction to allow temporary put off for this. Obviously in consultation with the fire department. I would imagine it would also entail moving the people who live in closets to rooms with windows and rescue, moving the people who live in the back apartments because there is no second means of egress to sections that have second means of. So the board could conceivably allow for an extended period if the board felt that they could put equal safeties in place to allow that extension. But otherwise, it would be a forthwith order.
And so with the fire department, so I would imagine that there's nothing short of having the appropriate fire detection system in that building would satisfy your or make you a happier.
go ahead, Lieutenant Lavoie.
So, I mean, one of the issues that I have, again, questions I have, when we talk about the safety of the building, is we had work done in that building I cannot find permits for. So that includes electrical work. I don't know what's been done in that building, and I don't know how bad things are. We didn't open walls. I wasn't even allowed into apartments. I just saw common areas.
Right.
I just don't know what's going on in that building, and I'm just afraid that even if we get this alarm system to where it needs to be, what I mean, you're looking at anything could cause a fire, and when it's done without permits, I'm very hesitant to say anything at this point, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And,
Is there
and
any
my-
proof that work
my
was done
comment-
without permits, or just baseless allegations being allowed to be made without any sort of backup photos, anything? Because we've pulled permits for any work that we've done that has needed the permits, electrical permits, plumbing permits, etc. And there have been no violation reports, there have been no citations, there have been nothing other than
Okay,
baseless.
Andy, Andy and Mike, Mike, I can see you shaking your head. Are there no permits? Are there no permits?
I can find absolutely 0 permits on our records for any of the work that's been done in that building since Hunter Foot bought it. I've been researching it for 2 days straight. Plus, I did some research on Friday after our inspection before I wrote the letter. There are 0 permits in our records.
Okay,
And-
thank you.
And the
However,
other thing,
do you know if work was done since he bought it?
I don't know. I wasn't in that building back until February when I assisted Andy on an inspection. So how that building looked before Hunter bought it or I ever became the inspector, I have no idea. I was never in the building. All I'm saying
Nobody
straight
knows.
up is there's absolutely no permits pulled by Hunter Foot on that building.
Thank you.
Without any evidence that work is done. There just aren't permits pulled within a certain amount of. Nobody's
Well,
saying that they
you
work that was
haven't
done.
learned. You know what? I'm not going to argue with you about it because I'm all set. Roland.
The permit situation has no bearing on this discussion. We're talking about the present condition of the building. Okay?
Agreed.
Regardless of how it got there, regardless of permits. The issue that I have, and what you said, Andy, I am not personally interested in a Band-Aid situation that is agreed upon by the fire department or any other town official to give any time period of these people, because I'm sorry, I cannot trust any kind of comments because we gave a forthwith order last Saturday that was not complied with. And I think it's about time that this town gets a hold of the DA and whoever else we need to do and take a firm legal action that the requirements of not only the town of Southbridge, but Mass General Law and every other law in this country is being followed, or therefore charge the people who don't follow them. We are talking about the present condition of this building, and we want to give someone time when our order for 2 people, and now we're finding out, oh my God, we're finding out that there's 10, 15 to possibly 20, and the homeowner doesn't even know how many people in his building. And we didn't even have our order that said forthwith followed for 2 people. Sorry, my vote is going to be forthwith. And as far as I'm concerned, if the order is not followed, the person who does not follow the order should have some extra jewelry on their wrists. And then by hook, by crook, or whatever method, and I'm not going to offer that right now, that these tenants are taken care of humanely. And I don't care how the town or any other organization is going to recoup their money. Let's take that up with the Attorney General. There's lawyers out there that'll work pro bono. I don't care if it's Solve at 7 or whoever. Enough is enough. Our orders have been totally ignored in the past. There is, in my opinion, absolutely, why give leeway to something that we're just being ignored now? This is absolutely terrible, terrible.
The order on the 24th was complied with. If we could allow Mr. Pelletier to confirm that he did notice that the law was changed.
I'm going to stop you because I do believe there also was supposed to be a permit pulled for a window. So don't even go there. You didn't comply with everything because you were supposed to have a permit to put in a window. No, you didn't comply.
The order was to change the lock. The lock was changed. Your agent witnessed the change.
You know what?
No idea what was happening.
Point of order. The agenda, the legal agenda. Agenda item number 3. Determine the habitability of 318/320 Main Street in its entirety. That is what we're here to do. We are talking in circles. We're talking the past. We're talking the future. Let's get the winning lottery numbers. That has nothing to do with why we're here. I make a motion that we move the question, we move the discussion, and we take a vote to determine the habitability of 318, 320 Main Street in its entirety.
Do I have a second?
I will second that.
All right.
Is she out there?
Yes.
Okay, Beth, if you can do, Maritza, if you can do a roll call vote, please.
Andy,
Yes.
before we do the vote, I will make the motion that the Southbridge Board of Health has determined that 318, 320 Main Street is uninhabitable for human occupation, no,
A motion to declare in its entirety uninhabitable.
in its entirety, and the occupants of that building are to be relocated out of that building forthwith.
Okay, so Roland, you had just put a motion on to move the question.
Yes.
Are you withdrawing that motion and just moving straight to this
Oh,
motion?
I'm sorry. Let's take a vote on moving the questions. I'm sorry, you're correct.
That's what I was waiting for.
Thank you.
Oh, I
Yes.
can't hear you. Oh,
We can't hear it to Andy.
can't hear.
Beth Stevens,
Yes.
Roland LaRochelle,
Yes.
Anthony Pastali.
Yes.
Okay, so the motion is to move the question. It passes, so I will entertain any subsequent motions.
I'll make a motion that 318, 320 Main Street has been determined to be uninhabitable, and the tenants are to be removed from that building forthwith.
Are we going,
In its entirety, right?
Yep,
yes.
Yes, as agenda number 3 states.
Thank you.
do we have a second on it?
I will second.
Thank you. Beth Stevens,
Yes.
Tony Pastali,
Yes.
thank you. Roland LaRochelle,
Yes.
Okay, with that vote, I will tomorrow draft an order to Mr. Foote and to Mr. Southstate as the owners of this property to remove the tenants, or to have the tenants removed forthwith.
For clarification, that order will go to us personally or to Southbridge RE LLC, the owner of the property?
It will go to Hunter Foote as agent of Southbridge RE LLC and Mr. Mark Anthony Salsi as agent of Southbridge RE LLC.
Okay, ordering us to have the LLC comply with the order, or ordering us individually to comply with the order?
I am going to make every attempt to hold you severally and individually so that the tenants are protected. So I'm going to make every attempt to make it individually and severally. And I will discuss it with an attorney.
Okay.
Madam Chair, before I make another motion to adjourn, I want to make a statement. I see there's some tenants here, and I want to ensure the tenants. And I can see Tony. We don't make this decision lightly. We have to take information. We have to do a risk benefit. We got on this board and we don't get paid. We got on this board to do the right thing for our fellow citizens. We don't take it lightly. We don't like to do this. We do what we need to do for the protection of the people who are not being protected by those that are supposed to protect them. please reach out for help. Please contact anybody. Work with Dr. Howell and his groups. We have to do a risk benefit, and I will tell you, I don't like doing this. I do not put my personal opinions to it. This is just the basic right to live and live safely. And if it wasn't violated, we wouldn't be here. So, Madam Chair, if anybody else does not have anything to say, I would make a motion, we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Beth, I just want to agree with Roland on what he said. And to the tenants, you know, it really kills me to have to displace you. But at the end of the day, you know, there's things I try to be reasonable about, and I try to look for types of compromises. But when you have something as so important as a non-working fire system, this is something where I just can't turn a blind eye or try to develop a compromise, regardless to past issues. So, you know, I'm really sorry it's gotten to this point, and hopefully you understand that we're doing this for your health and safety. But I get it's a huge inconvenience. So that's all I want to say. I'm sorry about this.
Madam Chairman, could I ask a brief question?
Sure.
This is John Howland again. I'd like to ask Mr. Foote to make a commitment officially at this time to do whatever is necessary and assume financial responsibility for the tenants in the building for whatever they may need to be suitably, safely housed once they are forced out of this structure. I would ask that Mr. Foote would here and now publicly commit to taking that responsibility to provide for these tenants.
I can absolutely commit to, in my capacity as an agent for Southbridge RE LLC, work with every single one of the tenants to try to find alternate housing, and to the extent the LLC is able to do so, participate and assist financially with this. We have resources, we have guys with trucks, we have other properties, and I will see to it that a conversation is engaged with each and every tenant relative to an immediate relocation to wherever would be workable for them.
Thank you very much.
Anything else?
Yes, if I may, if I could speak to either Andrew or the board, whichever would be most prudent about having any sort of issues or orders sent to me personally, whenever that could happen, please.
Go ahead, Andy.
Yes, under public record law, once the record exists, it can be requested at any point in time. So I would just ask that Dr. Howland give me send an email to me or Maritza, and we will, as soon as it's produced, make it available.
Andy, what is your email?
My email is apelletier at southbridgemass.org.
Thank you.
Okay. I guess that is there anything else? Roland, Tony, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Roland already made a motion. We're waiting for a second.
I'll second that now.
Thank you. Tony Postoli,
Yes.
Roland Larishel,
Yes.
Beth Stevens.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're adjourned, 5:11. PM. Thank you. Thanks, Chief. Thanks, Steve. We appreciate
Thank you.
all your help.
I will have orders out tomorrow.